Hello, my name is Adam Murray, and joining me tonight to preview this Sunday's All Ireland final are Ryan, Mr. Collins, Mr. Briggs, and Billy Walsh. And the first thing we're going to look at is the Limerick team. And do you think they have any weaknesses on the team, Mr. Briggs?
Very few. I would say that the obvious, it hasn't been a weakness so far, is probably the full back line. But actually, as the weeks go by, Dan Morrissey is looking more and more like an all-star full back. And, sure, they've one of the best cornerbacks in Sean Finn. And like Barry Nash hasn't been found out yet, but I suppose the way things are going, most teams are playing two inside. So at the moment, they don't have too many perceived weaknesses. And I've been thinking about it all week, and I'm struggling to find some. I suppose another small weakness they might have is they are susceptible that if you can score goals against them, they don't actually score a lot of goals themselves. So almost like a goal can, if you can keep the score down for points, a goal can almost be worth more than 3 to you if you can hit them for a couple, but that's a big if.
And do you think there'll be any areas of the field that Limerick might try and exploit Waterford, Billy?
See, kind of actually answering the question Shane was asked there in answering that question. So I think Limerick are a really confident team, and I think they play their game. Now, if you look 2 years ago and even last year, the Limerick full forward line were doing all the damage, right? They were cutting teams asunder. And people are saying Limerick are after evolving now. I actually don't think they are. I think they've had to kind of evolve, because every other team are so afraid of that Limerick full forward line that they're playing a blanket in front of them. And so Limerick then, when they get the ball to their half back line, they're looking up and there's no real ball to hit to that full forward line. So they're forced then to kind of play a bit laterally, kind of play short passing in their half back line, and then go for these 60, 70 yard points. But the problem is they're happy doing it. So like, are they going to focus on Waterford? No, I don't think so. I think if Waterford push up on them, they'll try to get the ball into the full forward line like they did 2 years ago. I think if Waterford decide to protect that full back line, Limerick are going to say, fair enough, we're going to do what we did all year. We're going to work the ball around so we get it in a position with a bit of space, and we'll pick them up with points all day. I don't think they're going to target Waterford as such. I think they're just going to play their game. Whatever way the opposition set up, they'll just try and find a way around that and play their own game.
And Billy, it's funny you should say that, because one of the things that Joe Schmidt used to say all the time when he was in charge of Ireland was they were process driven. And to me, like, this Limerick team are 100% process driven. They never actually deviate away from their game plan, but their game plan adapts depending on who they play against. And as far as I can see, they're one of the best ever hurling teams I've seen to make split decisions or second decisions on the field. Now, look, it doesn't always work out, but like they like you said, they go laterally, they go back, they go forward, and they are the most comfortable hurling team I've ever seen on the ball. I don't know about you, but even the great Kilkenny team, phenomenal in the sky, phenomenal tactic, the goal. But these are the best hurlers I've ever seen in possession of the ball and comfortable to hold on to the ball for long periods.
Yeah, and people are saying, they're not as good this year as they were last year. They're not getting goals, but that's because how teams are setting up against them, and they still can't beat them. Like when teams set up with extra defenders and kind of say, okay, look, we'll allow them have the ball, or we'll try and we'll make them work it through the lines. They're as happy doing that, but it doesn't lend itself to a great spectacle. So people are thinking Limerick mightn't be as good. No, I think Limerick are as good, if not better. It's just the way an opposition set up against them isn't lending itself to a spectacular game. But that doesn't mean Limerick aren't good.
I might slightly disagree with you there, Billy. It shouldn't be the first time.
No.
But I think since Cian Lynch has gone out of midfield up to centre forward, that the ball going into the forwards is not as good. And like Graham Mulcahy used to get unbelievable ball there, diagonal ball into space off Cian Lynch. But now the Cian Lynch is at centre forward. He's depending on ball coming in from the half back line in midfield. And I don't think they're going as well with him there. Like,
I don't know. You might have a point, Jeff. I just feel you look at Galway, right? They're plonking a guy in the D, trying to cut out that ball. They're bringing back their half forward line. You see, Limerick want to play that. Well, this is my opinion anyway. Limerick still want to play that ball into Galan. I mean, if you have a weapon like Galan, why wouldn't you not want to put the ball into him? So, but I just think the way teams are setting up, they're going, you're not hitting Galan. You can pick us off from out there, but you ain't hitting. You can pick us off with little cuts, but you're not gonna blow us apart with goals. But the problem is, Limerick are just as happy picking teams off with points, and that's only my opinion now. I do miss seeing Cian Lynch as a midfielder, because I think he's one of the best midfielders I've ever seen in getting onto ball, using ball.
Like, I was at the All-Ireland final now when they won, and I thought Cian Lynch just ran the show, you know, back in the backs and defending and bringing ball out, but the ball he gives into the forwards. And like, the other thing there is, like, Gerard Hegarty is on for Hurler of the Year, I think, if Limerick win. And we'll say if they were to line out according to position, you would have Gerard Hegarty being marked by Kevin Moran, but I would think they should switch to wing backs and if Kellen Lyons follow Gerard Hegarty.
Yeah, see, if Caleb follows Gerard Hegarty, Caleb will be playing as a wing forward, because, so I don't know. I don't know. There's cleverer men than me now trying to pick apart what to do at Limerick.
But it's interesting, because even in the Munster final, Caelan did a brilliant job on Morrissey, and Morrissey was taken off. But then, if you'd have watched the semi-final, it was actually Tom Morrissey that drove Limerick on in the semi-final, not Gerard Hegarty, even though he was also excellent. So, like, you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. If you take Kevin Moran and you put him on Tom Morrissey's still capable of hitting 4 points in play, and Hegarty might be notified. Like, to me, it's a very interesting one, because you look at, say, Cian Lynch, you think that it's a dangerous one for Waterford, with him dropping back a small bit deeper into the middle of the field to get onto the ball. But then you're also thinking, would I be shocked to see Kyle Hayes line up at 11 again this Sunday and switch back? I wouldn't be, because you always talk about Cody and like hammering the hammer. And you say, look, Kyle Hayes could do untold damage to Waterford running at Ty DeBurka, because we know Ty DeBurka likes to sit back in the pocket. And if Limerick want to score goals, that is an avenue they can go down. I think Kyle Hayes is another guy who has taken away from their goal threat, because he only knows one way. You see him playing wing back there, he's running straight, a bit like Caleb. But like when he's running straight from 100 yards out, it's a lot different. But he's running straight at you from 40 yards. He draws in defenders. He takes punishment. He drops it outside. Whereas I think Cian Lynch is far more likely to drop out into the pocket in the midfield and have a shot from long range. So it's very interesting, the dynamic that they have, and they can change midstream during matches as well if they really want. So like, it all depends on John Kiley's mindset. Would he be happy? Well, he will be happy if they score 30 points, as opposed to, you know, really pulverizing Waterford. Because if they go for the jugular, like, they are capable of scoring goals, but I think they're more than happy just to hit 30, 31, 32 points if they can.
Well, I think Ty Burke has to follow Cian Lynch the next day. I think he can't afford to sit back at all anymore.
Or Waterford will have to drop back that extra bit, which will again give Limerick even more freedom in their half-back line to hit long-range points. So, like, it's funny. It's a bit like the Dublin issue with Mayo. When Mayo play Dublin a couple of times, they have to go at Mayo. They have to go for it. I kind of have a feeling that Waterford might, if they want to win this game, I don't think they're going to win it sitting men back. They're going to have to go after Limerick. And that also leaves you susceptible into goals at the back. And I don't think Waterford are going to do that. They're definitely not going to do it for the first 40 minutes anyway.
I'm in total agreement with you there. So I think if Waterford play it safe, and I don't mean playing it safe, like, obviously they want to win the game, but I think if they play with a bit of fear and say, look, that full forward line of Limerick's, they're too good to give them, I suppose, space in, you know, that pocket of space in between the half back line and the Waterford half back line and the Waterford full forward line. Waterford, half back line. Waterford, full back line. So I really hope Waterford don't decide, let's drop back, cut out that space, and leave Limerick freedom in that half back line. Because I have never seen a team as good as Limerick to just own the ball in their half back line and kill you from back there. I've never seen a team that can kill. I've never seen a half back line that can kill you, apart from Limerick's. Like Kilkenny, you could do that. You could leave the half backs as free as you wanted, because they're still going to want to hit their full forward line all day. They'll drive it in high, and you could get some, you could get some joy out of that. But I just think if you don't push up on Limerick, you're kind of resigning yourself to maybe a close defeat. I think if you do push up, you're giving yourself a fighting chance, but you're still taking the chance. You're really trusting your full back line, and you're taking a chance of them taking you to the sword. But I do think it's the only way of going about beating them.
I know Shane was saying earlier on about the Limerick full forward line, but Gillan's coming back from a bad bang. He mightn't be 100%. Graham Mulcahy's not motoring well this year. And
Will Graham Mulcahy start though?
Pardon?
Will Graham Mulcahy even start?
That's the question. Yeah. But is Peter Casey injured? Does anyone know that?
Didn't hear.
I don't think so, no.
No, don't think so.
So the last day they started Flanagan, but was that a tactical thing? So
Definitely, I think. In fairness to Flanagan, he was excellent 2 years ago, and he kind of fell off a bit of a cliff last year, I'd say, hunger-wise. But he's been really, really good this year. Plus, even if you I know they say styles, but I thought Prunty did brilliant on Gillan in the Munster final. But it was when Flanagan came on that Waterford had a lot more problems because of his pure physical size. And Peter Casey, excellent hurler. I think Graham Mulcahy is the kind of big game player that I worry about, because he floats around. He doesn't stay in any one position, and a guy like that, if the ball runs from an All-Ireland final day, he could rack up a big score very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Some would say Flanagan has gone past
it. At 24, is it?
Look, what's good is, for the first time in years, we've actually a full back line that you'd trust. I won't say defending one-on-one, because no one defends one-on-one anymore, but defends without an absolute blanket of mass defenders around them. I'd be confident enough that our full back line could put the shackles on the Limerick forward line if we did push up somewhat.
Yeah, and there's always that element as well of, I always think that the All-Ireland finals and Croke Park do very strange things to some guys. And you kind of say oh, this guy's up for player of the year, this guy's up for player of the year. And then the guy who's struggling for form, he turns up on All-Ireland final day. And someone remember Taggy Fogarty, for instance, for Kilkenny. He always seemed to have an unbelievable All-Ireland final, but he'd be struggling to make the team up until then. And it's just that some guys are just inspired by it. And there's oftentimes, because teams are watching very, very closely, like the likes of Garrod Hegarty, it could be, O'Donoghue in the middle of the field could hit 4 points from play, and all of a sudden he's man of the match. And you're just never sure what's going to happen. The game is going to unfold, and you're unsure how it's really going to go until that ball is thrown in.
Hey, actually, here's a huge worry of mine though. Last night, I watched a podcast on how Kilkenny set it up for Waterford puckouts and how naive they were. And oh my God, were they naive. It was ridiculous. And it was so easy how Waterford got one-on-one with Kilkenny players and took them on. And before they even got to how Limerick set up for puckouts, I just went, Limerick will not let you get one-on-one with their backs. It just doesn't happen. Their midfielders will tuck in, their half forward lines will drop, they'll zonal mark. And I just thought, all the brilliance from Waterford, it was really when they were getting one-on-one with their man, either using their pace, beating them in the air. And I just worried. I said, God, they're not going to get that space, and they're not going to get that one-on-one opportunities against Limerick.
And just speaking of changes to both teams, Shane Files took to the back train, and Jake Dillon was taken off early enough last day. Do you think they'll go with the same 15, right?
I'd say so. their starting 15 is very good, but at the same time, like when Fives is fit, he could easily slip back in instead of Kenny and anyone. Montgomery, when he came on for Dylan last day, he was excellent. So it's hard to know really, but I think whether they do go with the same 15 or slip in Montgomery and take off Kenny for Fives, I think either way it's going to be more or less the same. They can all play fairly well.
Would you be worried about starting Montgomery, Mr. Briggs? That'd be his first start, like in Northern Ireland.
I wouldn't start him, and I don't think he will start. Now, look, do I think he's done enough to start? I do, but I think the big thing for Waterford is you've seen the impact the last couple of games on the bench. Where you have Neil Montgomery coming off the bench, you have Darragh Lyons coming off the bench, Conor Lease coming off the bench. Early Daly came on the last. They got a point. Waterford, I think, are going to rely on Jake Dillon to start this game, try and break even around the middle of the field for, look, even if it is 25, 30, 35 minutes, and then spring, because Montgomery is kind of a victim of his own success, that he's been so successful coming off the bench, regularly hitting 2 points on average a game, that to start him, where do you go if he doesn't go well? Because I don't think you bring on Jake Dillon if Neil Montgomery's not going well. So you leave Montgomery. Now, look, I probably would have started Conor Gleeson myself if he'd been fit, but I was kind of talking to someone during the week who has a know-how about these things, and they were telling me that no, he doesn't have 70 minutes. He's another impact sub coming off the bench. So while I think in any other year Jake Dillon probably would struggle to be on the team and even come on, I think he's going to be trusted to try and break this game open for 30, 35 minutes, and then the bench is going to be sprung, and they've got loads of legs on the bench. So that's the big thing. When the game does open up, like Montgomery's very quick, Darragh Lyons is very quick, Conor Gleeson's rapid quick, and you're hoping that fatigued players are going to find it a lot harder, like the Jeremy Burns of this world and Donoghue in the middle of the field, that they're going to struggle on the extra legs when they come on.
And Conrad?
And Jeff, Waterford have a very young team this weekend. Do you think nerves will have a big part to play with the young lads?
Say they'll have a part to play, all right, but nowhere near as big a part as if it had been played in front of 82,000. And there's not the same build-up in the county either, with searching for tickets and everyone talking about going up the night before and all the usual stuff that goes with a traditional All-Ireland final. So I think it's going to suit Waterford, because they're new to the whole All-Ireland final thing, a lot of the players, and there won't be the same pressure to perform without the crowd and all that. So yes, there will be, but nowhere near as much as normal, and I think that's to Waterford's advantage.
And we're speaking about the Player of the Year there, and Player of the Year probably come out of one of these two teams, maybe whoever wins. But who would you fancy for that, Billy?
Gerard Hegarty, Stephen Bennett. Actually, probably the two of them, even though, oh geez, I can't, after getting a brain freeze, the wing back for Limerick.
Jeremy Burns.
Jeremy Burns. Jeremy Burns has been absolutely brilliant. Just the fact that he's a back, I suppose, he doesn't get maybe the plaudits, but I'll tell you one thing, if I had a back that I did not want to mark, it would be Jeremy Burns. Now, he's absolutely brilliant. So I guess them three, for me anyway.
Caleb has to be, great minds think alike, Jeff.
Can Caleb get Young Hurler of the Year?
No, he's too old.
Okay.
If Caleb was to, put it this way, if he's put a man of the match performance in the weekend, he's thereabouts, lads, and I tell you, he's nailed on for an all-star at the moment. But I think some people were saying that he's nailed on. I don't think he is, because if Limerick were to go out and annihilate Waterford this weekend and Kyle Hayes is to be man of the match, you can't leave out Kyle Hayes and Jeremy Burns if Jeremy Burns hits his usual 2 or 3 points in play. So it's huge. Lads won't be thinking about individual accolades, but at the same time, I think a lot of players give you that party line, but clearly your self-pride coming into a game, you go, I want to play well, and at the back of your mind there's always going to be, geez, if I have a good game here, like we can win number one. That's the most important thing. And like, you know, I can be an All-Star. And to an individual player, I think those things are important because you set individual goals as well as team goals. And if you've been going really well all year, you know that if you perform on the biggest day, you're thereabouts to win an All-Star.
It would be a travesty if Caitlin didn't get an All-Star, because it would be an absolute travesty.
And we'll go with our predictions for the weekend. So, Mr. Briggs, what do you think is going to...
Yeah, I was really confident after the beat Kilkenny, and then as the days and kind of went by, I started to kind of come back to reality, and I didn't want to get sucked into it. And then I started just thinking to myself, right, where are the weaknesses in this Waterford team? Where are the weaknesses in this Kilkenny team or in this Limerick team? And then I started getting further and further apart. And I think like every Waterford player is going to have to play out of their skins. And I think a lot of Limerick players are going to have to come down, and I just can't see anything but a Limerick win. And I think Limerick, they have the capability of winning this game by 5 or 6, which we all want Waterford to win, but I just have a feeling they'll have more than enough to get over the line. What do you think, Bill?
Okay, so we're going to start with the positive, right? And I know we all want to win Sunday, no more so than the team. So let's start with the positive. So up until this year, and I'd say it straight out, up until this year, I'd seen, like I was saying, there's a saying out there, little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And for the past 4 out of the last 5 years, I've seen underage managers in Division C clubs playing defensive hurling because that was the way to do it. And I thought we deviated hugely from our way of playing, the Waterford way. Waterford hurling to me was kind of like the Dutch soccer team of the 80s. While they never won a World Cup, they played in a way that people saw greatness in them. And the win, lose or draw on Sunday, I think we're back playing a hurling that we can be proud of. And a byproduct of that is those same managers in under 12 teams, 13 teams will now say, well, actually, no, this is the way to play, and we can allow our forwards express themselves. So regardless of that, I'm delighted as a Waterford man that we're back playing good hurling. Okay. This Limerick team is a super team, and I suppose I think with my mind as opposed to my heart. And if I was to look at it logically, Cork were poor, right? Waterford bet them, Cork were poor. Clare were poor. Waterford bet them well, but Clare were poor. Kilkenny were naive. Waterford were 10 points the better team than Kilkenny, only for a slow start. But Kilkenny were bloody naive. And now they're coming up against a team that are just really, really good. Hard to break down, can pick you apart if you give them space in their half-back line, can take you to the sword if you give them space in the full-forward line. So while I'd love a Waterford win, I still think it's been a successful year anyway. And I think this team is only going to improve. But I just can't see anything but a Limerick win. And I just hope it's not a, they don't go to town on us. So.
Actually, Jeff, with Ollie Moran on the other day, and 2 greats of the game. Ollie Moran actually mentioned he wasn't particularly happy with the style of play in Limerick at the moment, even though they're winning All Irelands. And you had Waterford great here, Billy Walsh giving out as well. So I mean, there's something in it.
No, not anymore. I'm delighted the way they're playing now.
But to go just to draw the lines of form from that, Billy, like what you're saying there, like Galway, Kilkenny beat Galway in the Leinster final, and Galway had Limerick on the racks. There was only a point in it with 70 minutes up, and there were Don Mannion and Joe Canning was gone at that stage, like, which would put very little between, we'll say, any of the teams.
Yeah, but like how Kilkenny bet Galway, I will never know that day. Galway were 10 points a better team. And due to Galway kind of doing maybe a little bit of a Galway on it, half capitulating, and Kilkenny, two greats, just pulling few pieces of magic out of the air. But like on the general run of that game, I mean, Galway were hurling Kilkenny up a stick for most of that game.
And I thought Limerick didn't take their chances when they had them. They had like 3 goal chances. If they'd have stuck at least 2 of those away, which they should have, they were pretty much one-on-ones, they would have put Galway away. Plus, Galway are the only team, I think, physically capable of matching Limerick. And that's what kept them in the game for a long time. Like, yeah, I take your point, Jeff, but I still think, I don't know, I'm hoping to be wrong. I'm hoping to be shocked. But Ryan, what do you think?
Sure, as much as it breaks my heart, I'd have to agree with you. I think it'll be a Limerick win, but hopefully with the year that's in it, the underdog might come out on top. We saw it happen in some of the football games, so hopefully it can happen in the hurling.
Could happen in the senior football. It couldn't happen in the senior football final down here yet.
No chance.
Yeah. Are you thinking Waterford, Jeff?
Well, I just saying this, you know, I know that the bookies have Limerick as favourites and everything, but I do think Waterford have a decent chance. I think, like, for me, the 2 or 3 factors, like, is I don't think Hannon's playing that well this year, but I think Stephen O'Keefe has to get the puck out perfect the next day, because it's very hard. They're so big, like we'll say, Kyle Hayes is 6'7", you know, they're so big in the air, like that. How do you win your own puck outs against them? And you don't want to be going too short, like. And I think Burke has to just follow Cian Lynch and take a chance, like, and that the full back line will hold. Yeah, like lots of things have to go right for Waterford, but like Liam Cahill is previous there with that Tipperary under-21 team, like that they won the All-Ireland after getting beaten earlier on in the year, and his team seemed to like finish very strongly and play well, like, and you know, geez, they finish much better than they start, and they don't seem to not show up, like, you know, whatever he has about it in his personality, it's a bit like Alex Ferguson, you know, geez, very seldom just his teams not show up. So I don't know, like, would I bet on Waterford? Not with my own money, like, but I do give them a chance, all right?
Yeah, like I was thinking, I was at home the other day and I was just thinking to myself, right, people often throw out that label of, oh, Limerick have only won one All-Ireland. But then actually when you get down to nitty gritty of it, okay, they're not unbeatable, but like they were one bad decision away from making extra time against Kilkenny last year, which they would have won in extra time. And I guarantee you they would have beaten Tip. Now, right, I'm convinced. So now they'd actually be going for 3 in a row. And like, we'd be looking at this Limerick team in a totally different light if they were going for 3 in a row, saying, you know, who's going to knock them off the pedestal? Are they unbeatable, etc. So like, that's what worries me, that myself and Billy were on the first podcast of the year and we couldn't see past Limerick, and everything we've talked about has come true since. They've come through every challenge. They're unbeaten all year from the National League. Can I see Waterford coming up to the level? And my heart says maybe, and my head says no.
And Shane, actually, on that, and I would have said a bold statement that no team is going to come within 10 points of them. But the only reason teams have been within 10 points of them is because they've played kind of so defensive against them and almost resigned themselves to the fact Limerick will probably beat us, but they're not going to get goals. And I think that's the only reason that Limerick haven't racked up huge tallies against poorer teams.
Yeah, it's a tough one to see Waterford win. They start like they did the last day, and there'll be no chance of it. But they're probably playing well over the last few weeks, but I'd still have to say Limerick. I wouldn't be surprised to see Waterford win, but I do think Limerick will win.
Jesus, Jeff, I'm a star. You must be going through a middle of life crisis. Anytime I'm on the podcast with you, they're talking about the odds in the bookies.
Crisis that I'm not in the bookies.
Actually, Jeff, off point. I'm doing a job in the front yard of our school, right? Any chance I might send you a few pictures and give you a bit of advice on deck? I want to do a bit of decking on it.
It's part of the podcast, still, is it?
Put that in, and comment underneath if you have any suggestions.
DIY with Jeff. You can ask him off screen. All right, time is gotta go.
Thanks to all my guests tonight. We have more to come this week, so make sure to tune in as we look forward to Sunday. The very best luck to Ryan, who lines out as the Waterford minor footballers who take on Limerick this weekend in the Gaelic grounds. We play big ball too, huh? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, as it really helps us out. See you all soon on Extra Time.